Olá, pessoal. Antes de começar, queria só chamar a atenção mais uma vez para as legendas em português que verão um pouco atrasadas, mas que permitirão que todos tenham acesso a essa conversa, que será em inglês. Bom, vamos lá então. Estou muito feliz por moderar esse painel, particularmente por ser tão diferente do que estamos acostumados, combinando a liderança financeira e de marketing de empresas tão disruptivas, para falar sobre como as empresas estão olhando para o relacionamento com os clientes para construir seu futuro e seu valor. Convido então a Karen Starns, que já liderou a área de marketing de empresas como Amazon, Microsoft e Pearson, e hoje é CMO da Audiolabs, uma PropTech. E o Diego Barreto, CFO do iFood e mentor de mais de 30 startups pelo mundo. Hi, Karen.
Oh, bom dia.
Bom dia. Hello, Diego.
Hi, thanks very much for the invitation.
Thanks both for with us today. We just heard Peter talking about customer centricity and corporate customer-based valuation. And you both work in startups with the culture of mapping people's needs, pains, and desires, a problem-solving culture, rather than chasing all customers only. And we are also having a panel on digital transformation right after our conversation. So I would like to start by hearing your thoughts on that and how to embed that culture.
Absolutely, thank you. I think there's a really simple way to think of this. First, you start with a customer and you work backwards. When I was at Amazon, we referred to this as customer obsession, and it's one of Amazon's 14 principles. These principles really fuel the way that Amazon works. At Ojo Labs last year, we introduced a new value called earned trust. And earned trust is about not forgetting the lives that we impact. We realized then that we weren't being explicit enough about our customer centricity, so we added this value to the others. And we've dimensionalized those with the expected behaviors that we want to see in our employees. At the end of the day, when it becomes a natural part of everyday business, it's culture.
I completely agree, and definitely think this counts on building the company's value. Diego, your thoughts?
Well, I pretty much agree with Karen. What I would just emphasize is saying that it's very important in this process to have the right people with you. I'm not talking about the technical skills, but as Karen mentioned, we are talking about culture. In the end, if you don't have the people with the right mindset, with the right skills in terms of behavior to drive your decisions towards this vision, actually you will not build something organic. You're going to build something artificial that in the next cycle, once some priorities change, everything that you've done, you go back. So having the right people with the right behavior with you, it's something. It's an assumption to reach something, as we're saying.
I think that's the key. Some companies are missing, finding the right talents for the right seats. How you're working to cascade culture and to have it in the heart of every employee, so they live the values of the company, own it. What do you say is the key to have everyone in the same page?
I can start now on my end here. Well, I think that goes directly to the role of the leader. There's a difference between being a leader and being a manager. There are two completely different things. And in cultures like the Brazilian one, you don't have too much this vision of being a leader. It's much more a culture of command and control. I tell what you do, you go there and do it. So this is something that doesn't correlate with this discussion. The role here is the role of the leader here is to being able to make the context crystal clear to everybody. If I give you the context, if you have the behaviors that I'm looking for in my culture, everything will turn to be positive in the end. It's a matter of understanding why we are doing that and where we are focusing. You put the behaviors together, you're going to reach it.
And if I could just
Okay.
add a thought there, I think it 100% is about kind of setting the stage from the top. I think when cultures are kind of most robust and really working, it's when individuals are holding each other accountable. And when I was at Amazon, that was something that you would see kind of through and through of like every meeting, every interaction, every decision really was based on these leadership principles. And creating a robust culture is having kind of everybody in on that and aligned.
And leadership is about soft skills a lot. It's about culture and values, not only technical skills, but still see companies hire based on technical skills and fire based on soft skills and behavior. So people are looking for behavior, but selecting based on technical skills. How do we change this mindset and hire better?
Karen, you can start now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Diego. I think it gets to valuing and putting a value on the how and the what. And this may not translate. When I was at Microsoft, we would talk about results without roadkill. It's like you need the results, but you can't leave people in your wake. And holding people accountable to how they do their jobs, not just what they do, is incumbent on solving for that.
Yeah, I agree, and I would add on this. The process of choosing the person, it's very important. We are not trained for that. When you go to your undergrad, your grad, your MBA, and etc., nobody really tells you how to approach the right person. If you are talking about behavior and we're not talking about skills, technical skills, why do you ask the CV first? The CV doesn't tell anything about who you are. So just to give an example, the way we do here is starting a conversation, an interview, always asking what you have done that nobody else did. So I don't care if you were the first in your undergrad. I don't care if you were the first doing something in a competition. The point, everybody will be the first every single year. So that's not unique. So tell me what you have done that is completely different. So that's when you get how people behave, how big people think, how they desire to be bigger than they were yesterday, and etc.
Now I want to move the discussion to the odd scenario we are today. We are hearing a lot of theories about the new customer, and we are experiencing anxiety about projecting the future. Do you think we have a customer transformed? And how do you believe we can forecast revenue or project the future of the company with the uncertainty we're living with?
Well, Diego, I can start this here. I believe we have a new customer. If you make a comparison between who was the customer 10 years ago versus today, the customer 10 years ago didn't have transparency on prices, for example. Today you have. So you have a different behavior because people now can search and see exactly where's the best price. 10 years ago, the concept of convenience was completely different from today. The way that the last mile delivery works today, it's completely different from 10 years ago. Therefore, the way you demand convenience is completely different. Third, the way we built brands in the past was much more centralized in only a few companies that had the power to hire big advertising agencies and then work in a big brand, building a big brand. Today it's different. The way your company behave, the way your company communicate in the social media, for example, allows you to build a big brand, a strong brand. As a consequence, the way you retain, you engage clients, it's completely different from the past. So yes, I believe they are different, and I believe they are much more demanding. In the past, having barriers to entry was sufficient to grab a client. Today, the barriers to entry is much lower, and you really now have to, need to have a competitive advantage to grab your client.
And I would just add that I completely agree with you that over time, how those expectations have changed, and now people's best experience becomes the bar of where they want all of the experiences to be. If we tighten the lens a little bit on this and think about kind of pre-COVID, the time that we're in, and the time that we hope to be in the future, I think it's unclear whether the consumer changes that we're seeing today and that we're even experiencing as consumers ourselves will hold clear. So for example, Ojo Labs is in the real estate space. And if you think about home buying, people's end goal hasn't changed. They want to get in a home. They also want to make those decisions with more confidence, but the context has changed. And I think this is the opportunity for brands to really lean into the context, to understand that maybe in my business, right, you're more worried about mortgage cost, or you're less concerned about commute time because there's a lot of conversation out there that says we're not going to go back to 5 days a week in offices. So some things tighten up and some things loosen. And what we're doing is listening to the conversations, and we're also looking at behavioral data and survey data to make sure that we're being contextually relevant to people kind of where they are today, and helping kind of guide them as they go into a future state and may have different concerns or priorities.
Yeah, I agree. When you say customers were already changing, and this was already leading to shifts in customer behavior. But I will add some data from McKinsey. They found that in this crisis period we're living now, this new customer behavior, about 25% of customers are buying in new stores, and 30 to 40% are buying new brands. Some places, a relevant percentage of customers are changing brands, leaving an old brand they used to buy. This is a threat and also opportunity. With this in mind, what would you understand as health investment to customer acquisition retention? Karen, how to keep loyal customers?
Yeah, and I might flip it. So being in a startup, I'm looking at that as an opportunity. So if I would say, how can I capitalize on the fact that people are exploring new brands? You know, let me suggest 3 areas of investment. There are plenty more. The first is really looking at your SEO. Are you doing the work to obtain high-ranking placement, especially if you're a local business or you're a niche business, or you're an upstart that has really established competitors? That can be low-hanging fruit for people. The next place I would go would be search engine marketing. So think about Google AdWords. People are, because of either supply chain disruption or price sensitivity or any number of factors, looking out there for different brands. And so it's a way to find people who already have high intent and intersect them kind of while they're doing their discovery. And then the last thing, and this is a little bit of a longer play, but I do think there's an opportunity now for brands that are looking around the corner and not just focused on right now. And it's, what are the things that you're doing to build contextual relevance, whether that's a great experience, you're building community, you have creating great content, and that you can capitalize on demand today, but really make sure that you're laying the groundwork for pull in the future. You all may have seen that Airbnb filed for their IPO last week, and one of the things that really jumped out was that in their S1, they cited that 91% of their traffic is organic or otherwise unpaid. So the times that we're in, the groundwork they've laid has really given them an incredible bit of momentum as a business and as a brand. And those are the types of things that I'm looking to say, like, how can I capitalize on the opportunity where other people may just be hunkering down?
Yeah, Diego, I don't have too much to add on Karen. It was basically like a professor in a university, so she explained everything. I just wanna put a point just to provoke the assumption of McKinsey. I don't believe clients change loyalty during crisis. Clients change needs during crisis, which is different. Loyalty, it's not about breaking your loyalty. It's not about changing. It's about maintaining your support in the same conditions. So if you're in an economy that is slashing 10% of employment rate, of course people will change. This is not about loyalty in my opinion. This is about different needs and wants because of your current conditions.
There is another fact about 2020. which is companies needing to shift gears for real now into purpose-based work to be drivers in the change, and recognized by that. It's been seen an opportunity for a lot of companies to invest in causes and be seen connected to causes. And that's what they are hearing from customers, including by investors, beyond the profitability. What are you feeling about that shift from companies, and how do you see stakeholders' reactions?
Well, I can start here, Diego. Well, first of all, I want to be provocative here. I think that companies that are thinking about this right now, they're way late, very late. This is a discussion that should be in your agenda for the last 10, 15 years. The world has changed. If you didn't change your mind about this discussion, you are completely late. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you don't buy purpose. You can paint your walls. You can put nice words in your website. You can tell a lot of bullshit. And let me use this word because it should be a strong word here. The point here is about behavior. It's about what people see in your behavior, what people see in your reactions when bad things happen, what people see in your decisions when you have a dilemma, how you use your values, your purpose to decide in which way to follow once you have a dilemma. So I can see the stakeholders changing. But on the other hand, we have to make no mistake. People doesn't change the behavior because they want from one day to another. It takes time. If somebody's changing from one day to another, it's probably an artificial behavior. So yes, I'm seeing change, but it's slow, as should be. But if you are a manager, if you're a leader in a company and you didn't pay attention really to this point, actually probably your business is going to disappear at a certain point in time.
Diego, I love how provocative you're being on that point. And I agree with you because companies have been doing this and looking at this for the past 10 to 15 years. I would posit that the way that they've been doing it in the past is different. And now there's a point where we need to be looking at purpose not as corporate social responsibility or a side project or a side investment, but really kind of part of the fabric of an organization. And that's what we're doing at Ojo Labs, where we're looking at the idea of how can we serve all consumers better on their home journey. The catalyst for us to start doing more about it, because I believe that the doing part is the most important. Words can be very empty, and to Diego's point, really serve to whitewash something versus change what a company is all about. Our EVP of engineering came to me and said, like, hey, I'm having a hard time talking to candidates. Yes, these are amazing jobs and we are a great startup, but employees are looking for more. And so you're starting to get the pull not only from consumers and other stakeholders, but prospective employees that want to work in a place that serves a bigger purpose. And so that was a bit of a catalyst that we needed to really get moving in a way that said, we're going to do this as part of the fabric of the organization. And we're going to talk about it when we're doing things, not that we plan to do things or we have a set of beliefs. And I'm really excited because of what that means is we're bringing it into the customer experience. We're building it into the product. We have it in the hiring process, and we're garnering this kind of the support and the execution of it for every employee. And, that's a really high bar to reach, but it is, I think, the way that companies need to approach purpose today. Otherwise, it's an empty vessel that you're never going to fill.
I agree with you both. It's a challenge to balance long-term strategies with short-term pressures. And we still can see, especially during crisis, earnings budgetary pressures trap leaders into trading off long-term customers' value in favor of short-term profit. What are you doing to keep designing the future and balance short and long-term strategy? We can start with the PropTech.
So it's easy and it's true to say that you need to do both. That's right. That's always the answer. But here's how I think about it, how I talk about it with my team, and with people I mentor. I've got a mental model that really is very simple of like, you have to survive to thrive. And so, in crisis times like now for many organizations, it's first like, are you diving deep to understand what it takes you to survive the downturn, supply chain disruption, whatever it is, and really get a handle on what does that look like. And then secondarily, and I think some people can be uncomfortable about this, it's like, how are you unapologetically identifying the ways to capitalize on the crisis? Because that's a huge opportunity for you to accelerate your business. And so while lots of people are hunkering down and that's all they're doing, it's like, how are you looking around, identifying risks that you're willing to take and making moves that other people might not make? And, and that's when things can get really exciting for companies that are willing to step into the breach.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sometimes people take your question, this kind of question, Diego, as a problem. And having short-term decision is not necessarily a problem. So if you get what Karen just mentioned, sometimes it's necessary. But the point is, what is the concept of short-term decisions? Does it mean you have to screw your client for you to survive? Of course it's not. That's not what you're talking about. You can maybe work with products that you don't believe will exist in the future, but you believe it's much more affordable now in the present, and this gives you some short-term wins that will make you alive. It's not a problem at all. This is portfolio management. This is about knowing your business and putting and shifting gears during the phases of your business. The problem here is taking decisions that doesn't add value to your client, that doesn't engage your client, that doesn't really have traction with the customer needs and wants, even though it's a short-term decision.
Yes, we're seeing both audio labs and iFood disrupting your markets. And as we are talking here, the digital transformation is very connected to the customer empowerment. And we are seeing a strong connection to fast and growing companies. Today is easier to test and to scale. How do you look at this and big investments in innovation centers?
Well, I can start here. This remembers me the BCG matrix that was invented like 30, 40, 50 years ago. But actually, even though there are some limitations there, this is more or less how you should manage portfolio. Well, if you have a business that is completely mature, of course, that doesn't make sense to put much more investments on this. And then you should actually get part of this budget or the entire budget and bring to other options where you will test a lot and learn and then find exactly what you're looking for. And this is more or less what is there in this matrix. But the point I would make here, Diego, is why it's so difficult to do this in some companies. Because of culture, again. Because people tend to work in silos. Because people tend to believe they are owners of their budgets. People tend to believe that they have to survive and not the company. So actually, in the end, it's a matter of transparency and meritocracy. If you're able to make all the information flow so people can make much better decisions, the best decisions, meritocracy, will win. And this, in the end, will allow you to build the right portfolio, put in more money here or there in the short or in the long term.
And a slightly different view on that kind of in small companies, right? Many small companies or startups can't afford to be running multiple paths. But I look at the constraints of saying, like, I can't have an as-is business and a future business parallel pathing to say, like, those constraints are what is going to help me and my organization unleash innovation. And perhaps surprisingly, even a huge organization like Amazon runs the business this way, very lean and very tight, so that you are kind of putting those constraints so that you're able to unleash the innovation. And it's not some other group's job to figure out how to innovate, it's every single team's.
I'd like to take what you mentioned, Karen, to unleash innovation to our last question. In our day-to-day work, we see a lot of managers and leaders doing the same thing, expecting different results, even when facing new challenges, like the pandemic impact on business we're living now. So most of them understand they have to change, but don't know how and where to start. And during our conversation, we talk about culture, right talents, purpose, customer centricity, which is a long way for that. But I would like to ask you to share your thoughts on how they keep make that change. Karen, how can they unleash innovation and allow the company to try new things?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Thank you. I think the most important thing is that senior leaders need to be able to dive deep to really understand their business. And so whether that's looking, taking a funnel walk, it's looking at how are you optimizing kind of up and down that entire funnel, that you understand where you've got leakage and breakage, and that you're making sure that you're marshaling resources against the areas that are going to have the highest impact. Now, that might not be very bright and shiny, but those are huge levers to help unlocking kind of business growth.
Yeah, I would also add, Diego, that's life. I mean, if I knew everything, I mean, I would be the Superman of the world, and it doesn't exist. So I'm also have here a lot of ideas and a lot of doubts. The point here, it's about, again, we come back to the same words, culture, behavior. You have to be able to, of course, get everything that Karen just mentioned, but also have this culture, this behavior of trying, testing, learning, and evolving. Nobody will know the answer firsthand. If somebody's telling you this, his or she is a liar. So I would just tell people that be wise with your time, be wise with your resources. If you're wise with this, then it's a matter of testing and finding the best route.
Well, we got to end of our panel. This was a really great conversation. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Diego.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks very much. Pleasure.
E agora vamos para o nosso próximo painel, nos aprofundarmos na transformação digital que foi acelerada pela pandemia. Eu passo o bastão para o meu colega e também sócio da Valore Brasil, Rafael, que conversará sobre a transformação digital.